Let me tell you a story about the time I met Adolf Hitler in Argentina back in the 90s. So back in 1997, I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I flew down to Buenos Aires to teach the gospel of Jesus Christ and ask people to be baptized into the church. So we would go from door to door, me and my mission companion, teaching people. And in Argentina, you clap, you don't knock, because there's generally a fence around the yard, and there's quite a bit of distance between the fence and the door, and so you clap really loud. So we go to this house, kind of on the outskirts of the city. I believe we were in this town called Bella Vista. Yeah, I think that was it. So we're kind of on the outskirts of Bella Vista. There are a bunch of fields and stuff out there. And there's this little house, nice little yard around it. I remember a few houses away, there was this guy who had a nutria as a pet. I don't even know how to say that in English. If you look it up, like on a Google Translate sort of thing, it'll say otter. But that thing wasn't an otter. It was a rodent of unusual size. The thing looked like a giant rat. So this guy has, not Hitler, but the guy who lived a few houses over, had this like giant rat in his front yard, the size of a large dog. I'm just staring at this thing like, I can't believe this. Yeah, I know, the story about Hitler is also a story about a giant rat that I saw in a yard. But I found out some people keep these as pets and some people eat them. So yeah, look up the Argentinian nutria. That's N-U-T-R-I-A. Strange animal, strange pet. Rodents of unusual size. Anyway, so after we saw this giant rat thing, and I was pondering like, man, you don't see anything as weird as that in a day, do you? We go over to this house and we clap. And this dude who looks like he's about 100 years old comes out of the house. He hobbles over. It's like, and what do you want? We're speaking Spanish. And he speaks Spanish with this heavy German accent. And this was the first time I had heard German spoken, or Spanish spoken with a German accent. And it just seemed kind of comical to me because as an American, we watch movies and, for example, you see Indiana Jones and the Nazi characters are all speaking English with these German accents. Or you watch a movie about Italian characters and they speak English with an Italian accent. Or that's how Hollywood is. They show that somebody is a foreigner by having them speak English with a foreign accent. And so we're so used to hearing these either made up and occasionally genuine foreign accents in English, which is something that you don't get a lot of here in China. Yeah, I live in China for any of you just tuning in. Because here in China, oh man, if your Mandarin does not sound standard, if you have an accent, people don't understand you. Or they'll pretend they don't understand you. If you speak Mandarin with a heavy American accent, ni hao ma, nobody's going to know what you're talking about. But yeah, Spanish with a German accent, man, that sounded so weird to me. But while I was in Argentina, I heard Spanish with German accents, Welsh accents, Irish accents, Korean accents, all these different accents I never would have imagined hearing Spanish spoken in. So if you're from a Spanish-speaking country, this is probably not news to you. And I remember in that same town there were these, I'm getting back to the Hitler story in a bit, but let's talk about linguistics for a moment, because this is something that interests me. I remember I ran into a lot of kids who would like to pretend to speak with a French accent. And when you speak Spanish with a French accent, all you do is stress the last syllable of every word. Estoy hablando español con un acento francés. Yeah, anyway. It sounds terrible. Doesn't sound anything like French, and it doesn't sound anything like Spanish. But anyway, so we clap outside. Hitler comes out, and we exchange some pleasantries. We ask where he's from. He's like, I'm from Germany. And we're like, oh, when did you come over here to Argentina? He's like, kind of reluctantly, but eventually he says, after the war. And so I start asking more questions because I'm curious. I'm really interested in World War II, and I knew a lot of Nazis had moved from Germany to Argentina and Brazil and other parts of South America after the war to flee prosecution for their war crimes. And understandably, the guy was very reluctant to give much information about that. And I start thinking to myself, hold on a minute. This guy's about the right age, about the right height, about the right look. Am I talking to Hitler right now? I think I'm talking to Hitler right now. But that's not what sold it on me, what sold me on the idea yet. So Hitler asks what we're doing, and we tell him we're missionaries from the church, and we want to share this message with him. He's like, oh, hold on. So he goes back into his house, and he comes out with this giant Bible that probably weighs like 100 pounds, and it's handwritten in classic German Gothic text. It's an old German Gothic Bible, and it's huge, and it's got like the fancy letters and at the beginning of the paragraphs and everything. And if you look one of these up online, if you want to buy one to name it costs a small fortune to get one of these. They're a rare collector's item. But anyway, Hitler had one because apparently he had a thing for collecting rare, expensive stuff. And yeah, this kind of shocked me. What? Hitler has a Bible? Apparently so. One quote from Adolf Hitler that is not well known is this. He said, "The Nazi movement is a Christian movement." And I'm not defending that statement at all. I'm going to say straight up, no, it was not. But Hitler said that. He indoctrinated people in that idea that we are in the right here. Why? Because most of the people in Germany were Christians at the time, and so he tried to appeal to their sense of religion. Man, it's terrible, terrible, terrible what a charismatic psychopath can do. But anyway, Hitler comes out and he's got this Bible, and he wants to Bible bash. Hitler wants to Bible bash with me. I kid you not. If you're not familiar with Bible bashing, that's when two people with opposing religious views who both believe in the Bible but don't believe in the same interpretation of the Bible decide to fight over the Bible by pulling out proof scriptures. For example, they'll be like, well, in 1 Corinthians chapter whatever, it says this, which contradicts your belief. And then the other guy's like, oh yeah, well in Matthew chapter 4, it says this, and then Jesus did this, which contradicts that thing that you just said. Oh yeah, no you didn't, because... And it goes back and forth for a while. Ever wonder why there are so many Christian sects out there? There's one Bible, and supposedly one God, one Jesus, one Holy Ghost, right? So why do we have all these different Christian churches with all these radically different interpretations of the Bible? So, yeah, Hitler had some radically different interpretations of the Bible, but here's the funny thing. He's pulling out this Bible. It's written in old Gothic German. I don't speak German, and his Spanish wasn't very good. Not good enough to translate his old Gothic German Bible into Spanish or English. And he starts reading these proof scriptures in German at me, and he's like, see, there, take that, man. In his broken Spanish with his crazy German accent. And I look at him like, I don't even know what you just read. And he got mad at this. He got mad. He was like, how can you not know German? How can you not know German? You call yourself a man and you don't know German. He couldn't wrap his mind around this, how I could have the audacity to not be fluent in German and come to his house to speak to him about the scriptures. So that didn't matter to him, though, because he flipped over the pages, these giant pages from this 100-pound Bible, and he like points out some other scriptures, and he reads it in German. I'm trying to do my Hitler accent, but and I'm just looking at this like, man, he reads the Bible the same way that he did his speeches. This is amazing. And he's like, take that. I'm like, I still have no clue what you're reading. I mean, I can like cross-reference in my Spanish Bible if you give me the verse. And he's like, 9. And then goes to the next one and the next one. And after old Adolf was thoroughly convinced that he had proved the Mormons wrong once and for all, he closed his book with a big clap. And he's like, good day. And he marches back into his house with this little swagger, little strut behind him. I could tell he was very satisfied with that exchange. He had beaten the Mormons. Anyway, I wasn't convinced it was Hitler until that moment, because that is exactly how Hitler would have Bible bashed.